This is a Bosch CP1 high pressure fuel pump fixed to a Vauxhall Corsa, and the car just wouldn't start. So I checked the low pressure pump and make sure that works fine. So that usually comes on when you turn to ignition position 1 or 2, and you can just hear it all run the fuel from the tank. That pump's in the tank, but yeah, there was plenty of fuel getting through. You take one of the pipes off the fuel filter and see that. Made sure there were no blocks in the line or the fuel filter. Checked that there was fuel in the high pressure rail that goes to the injectors. Checked that there were no fuses blown and the injectors were getting the signal to work from the wiring loom or the ECU. So the thing just wouldn't start. I cranked it for 10-15 minutes. It would fire on one cylinder, but that wasn't enough to get it started. Also, before this, there was a loss of power going up hills. You couldn't rev it, over 3,000 RPM, something like that. If you took your foot off the accelerator, it would actually run just a little bit better, but you could only go up a hill at the speed that the engine would let you go up. So I tested the turbo, made sure that was spinning freely, and that wasn't seized. Checked the map sensor as well, which is on the back of the inlet manifold, and all these were okay. Checked the inlet manifold to make sure there weren't any leaks and that it wasn't blocked. And check the air filter and the glow plugs to make sure they all work properly as well. So basically you check everything that would stop fuel and air getting into the cylinders. So this job, take off the high pressure pump, had to remove the vacuum pump first, as this blocks one of the pump bolts, replace all the seals on the high pressure pump, making sure everything's insanely clean, put it all back together. And then when I put it back together, I didn't connect the high pressure output from the pump and used the low pressure pump on that ignition position before turning the engine over, just to run through probably about 1 litre or 2 litres of diesel all the way through the pump, cranking the engine over so that all the pump would turn, but the engine wouldn't start, just to get as much diesel washed through any bits of dirt and rubbish that might have been left behind while taking the pump apart. That's very, very important, because this obviously happened. This pump is working after your normal fuel filter, so you don't want anything in there, because if you get stuff stuck in your injectors, you ain't really going to get it out that easily, and that's just another job you don't want to do.
So one of the bolts is here, another one in here, but this one is stuck behind this thing.
Tape over the ends,
Get the fuel filter out of the way, and now take the bolts off that hold this on. So now with the brake line filter, the brake vacuum filter out of the way, I didn't need to take the clip off. I can now remove that bolt and the whole unit should come off.
So this is the seal kit
Right today, just note, not all seals in the kit are used in the pump. For example, I know that it doesn't use this teardrop one, this one in this model one, but some will. And there's lots of other little washers and things in here that I'm not entirely sure where they would be. So the first thing to do will be take each of the 3 heads off of each of the pressure points. So that's done with one of these, and that'll just be undoing each one of these here, each 4 of these, and there is a small Allen key point here, you don't take that out. There's no need to take that out. It has a ball bearing in the end, and all it does is a port block for the high pressure line that comes in across in that angle, so it's being drilled in that way. You'll see in a minute. So when you've undone all 4 bolts, it will spring up. So be careful that it doesn't come up with a jolt. Make sure it comes up nice and easily. So this is the high pressure head that's off. So the high pressure fluid goes up here and then comes out through this hole down here. To get that hole connected to this one, a hole's been drilled across the top here. So that just blocks it off and stops it leaking out of the drilled hole. Seals, we're going to replace this one, under here. So some seals to get out in there as well, and replace this one over here. So that's in the head, in the main body. So all of these do come apart, but there's no seals in them. So this should turn, this comes off. You want to keep this insanely clean. Don't bother drying off the diesel. It's acting there as a good lubricant. So that should very smoothly turn around. Any issues you can see on this one, there's a bit of wear on this side, just because in its life it's never turned around. That's fine. So there are no seals to replace on this either, or no washers, nothing else. And then this lifts off. Spring. And then this post will come out. And in here is where the piston gets pushed up and down on the pump. So just cleaning the top up with a razor blade. And then using a screwdriver, I've just marked this face number 1, and then I put everything to do with that on number 1, and then I'm going to do that for number 2 and number 3 as well, so everything's kept will go back where it came from. And then I'll be able to take this off, because at the moment all the springs will be pushing against this shaft. All these springs of the piston, all the springs of this piston will be pressing against this shaft. So yeah, take all the caps off, give it a bit of a clean. It's not too important because the seals make on the surfaces below which aren't rusty, so this is just where weather's got in over the years, but it's nothing to do with the performance of the pump. So all 3 head caps off. Loosen these ones now. I used good leverage of a mini ratchet because these things are on damn tight. So do that, and then we'll take this off. So this is it partly pulled up, 3 bolts taken out, and I used this little hole here just to get my first leverage on it, just to get past some of the seals that are on the inside, and then it pulls out nicely. You can see that some of these blue ones here completely tattered, falling apart.